Okay, everyone. So now we're going to install our Lampstack. Now, going back a little refresher, what is LAMP again? LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. Now, those are a subset of tools and software that runs most of the websites on the internet. And what we're going to do is install the packages one by one. Now, some people may say there's such an easier way of doing this, and there is. If I just go sudo task cell, meaning task select, you put in your password, and remember this familiar page during the install, and you can just hit lamp server and away you go. That's great. But the thing is that, like I said, I want it so that if that tool does not exist on the system that you're on, and some of them do. For instance, if you use Debian, which is a stripped down version of Ubuntu, then TaskCell does not exist. And so you'll still have to do it manually. And it's always good to know how to do something manually. And then eventually, once you get more advanced and more experienced, just use TaskCell. It works just fine. Okay, so now what we're going to do is install Apache first. So in order to install an application in Linux, Ubuntu Linux, you'll go sudo apt-get install. And now we're going to install Apache. So Apache 2, because Apache version 2 is the package that we want. Okay. And then it'll ask you to confirm, do you want to install Apache? Say Y for yes. And it'll go ahead and install Apache. Okay, so now what we want to do is go ahead and make sure Apache is working. This is the fun part, because if you've never hosted your own website before, you're about to. You're about to see for the first time a website working on your own server. So again, if you don't remember your IP address, you can always go ifconfig. And my IP is 192.168.1.181. And open up a browser on the machine that is your client. And then just hit enter. And now here we go. Here we have our very first website. Well, not really a website. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because this is just a default page for Apache. But now you've officially launched your first web server. By seeing this page, we know that the Apache installation is working fine, and it gives us some information about Apache here. Okay, so now the next the next tool we want to install is MySQL. So in order to do that, we'll do sudo apt-get install MySQL server. Okay. And then of course say Y again to accept the download. Now, MySQL will go ahead and ask you to make a root user. This is not the root user for Linux. This is a root user for MySQL. So now, create a password, and of course, this one, just like your Linux password, should be very secure. 8 characters, 1 capital letter with 1 number and a special character. Okay. Okay, now we want to install PHP. So in order to do that, we'll do sudo apt-get install PHP 5, because that's the latest version of PHP. And also we need another module for PHP. We'll need PHP 5-MySQL. And now what that is a module for PHP, so PHP can interact with the MySQL server. So then hit enter. Y. And now we will download PHP. Okay, now that we have PHP installed, we want to make a PHP test file in order to make sure PHP is running fine. Okay, so now the first thing we will need to do is to explore the directory for Apache. So now Apache stores all of its files in, all of its website files in var/www. Okay, so you go cd/var/www, and then cd/html. So Apache reads the website files from /var/www/html. And when you go ls, you'll notice that there's index.html, which is index.html is the file that the web browser looks for, and then it grabs that file first. So if I were to remove index.html, okay, we'll have to do sudo. And now if you actually, here's a trick, if you do sudo space with 2 exclamation marks, it repeats the same command that you wrote, just with sudo in front of it. Very useful. Now if I do ls, there's no command, there's no file there. Now if I go to this site and refresh, see, the site's gone. That's because Apache looks for index.html. So the browser will talk to Apache, and Apache looks for index.html to display. Okay, now there's a very useful site, php.net, which talks all about PHP. And what we're going to do is copy this code, okay, which is the php.info file. So we're going to create a file called php.info. And if you notice, I'm using Nano to create this file. Okay, and Nano is a text editor, and so if there's a file in there that's, if you name a file that doesn't exist, it'll create it for you. And now I'll paste the info here, and now you hit Control O to write the file, and then Control X to exit. Now if I go back to our page that just shows index of, and then I do /info.php, oh, sorry, I reversed this. So instead of naming it info.php, I named it php.info. So what we could do is move php.info to info.php and put sudo in front. And now we change the name to info.php. Okay, and if I refresh, we'll see that PHP is running. So great, we've confirmed now that we have Apache and PHP running, and we have MySQL installed. So that is the long way of installing the PHP, MySQL, and MySQL, also known as the Lampstack. Next, we're going to install WordPress, and then we're going to start securing our server and going through some best practices. If you have any questions so far, of course, always email me, SeanMancini2010@gmail.com, and thanks for watching.